The sunset clause. The invitation wasn't addressed to me. I noticed it on the kitchen counter that morning. Gold foil, embossed with her company's logo, the one I helped her name 5 years ago when we were building dreams instead of walls. Rains and Locke Real Estate Group Annual Gala. My wife's name, Evelyn Locke Rains, was printed in larger font than the company itself. And below it, in small, deliberate letters, dress code, high society only. She didn't have to say the rest out loud. She didn't want me there. Not the husband who came from nothing, not the man who once drafted her contracts in our cramped apartment while she rehearsed how to speak like she'd always belonged in marble rooms. That night, I waited for her to come home. She did, in a silver gown that caught the light like it was born for attention. Her laughter still carried the remnants of champagne and someone else's validation. When she saw me, she froze, guilt flickering for half a second before she smothered it. "Daniel, it wasn't that kind of party," she said finally. "You wouldn't have fit in." Fit in. The words hung there like rusted hooks. I didn't argue. I just nodded, poured myself a drink, and felt something cold and precise begin to form behind my ribs, like a contract being written in silence. The next week, I met her parents at brunch. They didn't look at me much. When they did, it was with the kind of politeness reserved for someone who'd already been dismissed. Her father mentioned an investment in Evelyn's company. Her mother smiled like she was performing for a mirror. No one mentioned my name. I had built the legal framework of that company. Every clause, every joint ownership, every acquisition deal that passed through my firm's review. Yet now, the conversation treated me like a footnote. When I asked Evelyn later why her parents seemed distant, she sighed. "They just think you're, how do I put this, not their kind of success story." She didn't mean to say it out loud, but she did. And I realized then my wife had been rehearsing her escape long before I noticed the silence between us. Still, I kept calm, because that's what lawyers do. We don't react, we document. That night, when she was asleep, I logged into the shared business account I'd set up for her when she started the firm. Access was supposed to have been mutual. It wasn't anymore. Her credentials had changed. Mine had been revoked. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the message on the screen. Access denied. It wasn't just about power, it was about erasure. She was cutting me out, piece by piece. The law is a language most people don't truly understand, but I do. I began quietly, tracing her company filings, checking property titles, comparing digital signatures. It was subtle, deliberate, no confrontation, just observation. Every document she signed without me left fingerprints. Every transfer, every shell corporation, every rewritten clause told a story. One evening, as I reviewed her latest investor documents, I found it. A clause buried deep in a shareholder agreement, a change I hadn't drafted. It reallocated the founder's shares, mine, to her. A small alteration, elegant, almost invisible. Except for one problem. She had used my old electronic signature. Forgery. I felt my pulse slow, not quicken. That's how I knew I was past anger. For weeks, I played the part of the neglected husband, smiled when she came home late, cooked dinner, watched her perform affection like a woman rehearsing for a role she no longer wanted. But inside, I was outlining something far more permanent than a marriage contract. A new kind of agreement. It took me 2 months to gather everything I needed. Every forged document, every diverted fund, every falsified email, all packaged neatly into a single digital file. I called it the Sunset Clause. The name had weight. It implied finality, a quiet ending written in light. I waited until the night of her company's second annual gala, the one I was not invited to again. This time, I didn't stay home. I didn't attend either. Instead, I sent the file, anonymously, to the company's investors, partners, and the regulatory board overseeing corporate compliance. Within an hour, my phone began to light up. Calls, messages, notifications. But I ignored them all. I drove to the coast, the one she always said was too lonely for her taste. The sea was gray that night, the kind of gray that swallows color and truth alike. When the first message finally caught my attention, it wasn't hers. It was from one of the major investors. "Is this real, Daniel? Tell me this isn't true." I didn't reply. Then her name appeared. Dozens of messages, flooding the screen like panic turned into text. "Daniel, what did you do? They're pulling out. Everyone's pulling out. Please answer me." I watched the sun dip below the horizon, the world bleeding into shadow. And I felt nothing, just the quiet satisfaction of symmetry. She found me 2 days later. I was sitting at the edge of the pier, drafting a new contract, this time for myself. Her voice was trembling when she spoke. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You destroyed everything I built." I looked at her, calm, detached. "Everything we built. You just tried to erase my name." Her eyes widened. For a moment I saw the woman I used to know, the one who believed in fairness, in partnership. But she disappeared behind fear. "You could have just confronted me," she whispered. "I did," I said quietly, "in the language you understand, paperwork and signatures." She stepped closer, desperate. "We can fix this. You can help me." I interrupted, my tone surgical. "The board knows about the forgery. The investors saw the proof. The authorities have the documents. There's nothing left to fix." Her face crumpled. Not from sadness, but from realization. She hadn't lost a company. She'd lost control. And for her, that was the true death. I stood up, handed her a single sheet of paper. Divorce papers. Signed, dated, final. Her name wavered on her lips, but she didn't say it. She just stood there as I walked past her. Past the ruins of ambition disguised as love. The tide came in, washing over our footprints, erasing even the evidence of where we stood. It's strange how silence can feel louder than confrontation. In the days that followed, the news spread like fire through the industry. Fraud, investor withdrawal, legal collapse. Her company dissolved under investigation. Her parents refused to answer the press. And me? I didn't give interviews. I didn't gloat. I just disappeared to the coast again, alone, unrecognizable, free. I rented a small house overlooking the water. The air smelled like salt and closure. At night, I sat outside with a glass of whiskey, watching the horizon fade from gold to gray. Every now and then, my phone buzzed with another message, her number or an unknown one. I never opened them. I had already signed the final clause of our story, the one that said, "No further communication, no future amendments." I drafted it in silence, executed it with precision, and as the last light vanished beneath the ocean, I realized something simple. She had always been afraid of the coast because she thought it was lonely. She was wrong. It was peaceful. Some contracts end in ink. Ours ended in truth. And that was always the cost she refused to read.